Welcome to the webinar. My name's Kerry Stevenson, and now we have a great presentation from Alicanto Minerals. ASX code is AQI. And joining us today is the Managing Director, Peter George. Now, Alicanto Minerals have got projects in both Sweden and South America. To tell you the story, please welcome Peter George. Peter, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Kerry, and thanks, NWR, for putting on this webinar. So, today I'm going to outline what I suspect will be a new story for some of you. Some of you will be aware of what we've been up to, but hopefully I can educate a few more people on the fantastic story that is Alicanto. But it's really only just getting going. It's a ground floor investment opportunity. And we're really starting to go places. So just a quick corporate snapshot. So shares on issue around the 280 million. Of course, we, a lot of you will be aware, in a trading halt just at the moment, pending a capital raise. I won't go into that in too much detail at this stage, but our share price as of the 17th, or yesterday, was at 14.5 cents with a market capitalisation of around the $40 million. So moving on to the next slide. So look, there's 5 things that I really want to take you guys to take away from this presentation, and actually, to be honest, there's 6, especially given the news that we had earlier in the week about our new resource in Guyana. So the first point I've got there is, look, the right team with a strong backing. You'll recognise a few faces in there, and these guys speak for themselves, having had some amazing success over a sustained period. I'll come to that. A tier 1 location in southern Sweden, a historical high-grade production profile, 28 million tonnes at 4% copper, 4 grams per tonne gold, 35 grams of silver, 5% lead and 5% zinc, 2% lead. The third point there being 1,000 years of geology being turned on its head. I have a slide in here called Cracking the Code, which goes into detail, and even an animation, which I won't bring up today because it takes too long, but I'll show you the link to that so that you guys can have a close look at what I'm talking about. We have a plethora of high priority targets, and I'll go into some of those. We have drilling underway, and of course our 6th piece of news being the maiden resource at Arakaka, and I'll bring that up as our last slide. But I'll just draw your attention to the background of my slide there. That's my 11.9% copper rock, which we found at the Wolf Mountain deposit. And really, that rock was probably what started us on a path that we've been on for the last 9 months. Moving on to the next slide. Maybe. Okay, sorry, that's on the board and management.
Gotta love technology, don't you, Peter?
I love it. Hopefully the computer will catch up. There we go. I'll stop clicking. So on the board and management, look, as I hinted to you, look, the majority of the team behind Alicanto needs no real introduction. Definitely a Bellevue feel in there. I've got my non-exec chairman being Ray Shorrocks. I believe he just presented then. He's joined me on the board in August of this year. Fantastic to have Ray in there with his recent success with Bellevue and Orteco, and also his experience with the markets. Didier, of course, has been around for quite some time on our board. Also had, we have CFO with Mike Naylor, and a massive amount of support from Steve Parsons and Marcus Harden in there. And Steve actually turns out to be one of my largest shareholders as well. So I get a huge amount of support from Steve. But a little bit on myself and my chief geologist, Eric. So just a quick background there. So myself, I'm a mining engineer by profession. School of Mines graduated from Kalgoorlie. I understand, I actually lived in Sweden for 6 years. Myself and Eric, as my chief geologist, we both actually started with Boliden. They're about a 6,000, 7,000 employee company in Sweden. And we both started on exactly the same day, going back in 1995 as graduates. Eric as geologist, myself as mining engineer. I went on, managed a number of the big projects up there in Sweden. Eric stayed on as chief exploration geologist and has actually had 6 major discoveries in his own right within the region. So very happy to have him on board, and obviously working on the 7th for us. Moving on to the next slide there. So look, Sweden, it's a tier 1 mining jurisdiction. You know, it's one of the best places in the best parts of the world to be operating, and I should know. I worked up there for 6 years. I've also spent a lot of time in Australia, so being able to compare Australia with Western Australia with Sweden, most people wouldn't do. But you know, in a nutshell, they're very similar. You've got a very long mining history. You know, I don't actually have the concerns of native title over there in Sweden as what we have over in Western Australia. But you know, on top of that, I have an abundance of fresh water. You know, my infrastructure that I have over there, I have roads, I have rail, all going straight past my tenements. I have a major port within 150 kilometres. But Sweden itself, there we have 3 major mining areas. So up in the north, we have the big iron ore government mines up there. In the middle part, you have the Skellefteå field where Boliden is for the most part. But also down in the south where Alicanto is, in the Bergslagen, you know, there are some rather big mines in there. You've got the Garpenberg mine, which is owned and operated by Boliden. You've got the Zinc Gruvan mine, which is owned and operated by Lundin. Prior to that, was owned and operated by North, going back a few years ago. And then, of course, you've got the Falun and the Sala mines there as well, being big deposits. So with the Falun deposit probably being most relevant to us, which is right next door to our tenement package. But, you know, 28 million tonne deposit at 4% copper, 4 grams of gold, 35 of silver, 5% zinc and 2% lead. So some very high grade deposits in there. So moving on to my next slide, hopefully. So just to demonstrate there, so that's the Falun copper gold mine itself, or a picture thereof. That's looking over in a westerly direction. So I've just highlighted there on the screen the limestone hosted mineralized zone, which I'll talk about a fair bit. But you know, the Falun deposit itself was an amazing deposit, mined over about 1,000 years, the majority of which mined out over about a 100-year period before 1992. And really, it's sat still since that period of time, and the entire Greater Falun Project really hasn't been anything done in that area since that period of time. I believe Pack Partners did some research into us going back about a month ago, and they put a value, if the Falun deposit was still there, of about $1.5 billion. I think they've undercalled that by about a half. But, you know, this would be fantastic to have today. You know, and I think it's all fair to say, you know, where's the best place to find a deposit like this? And it's a long strike and right next door to where you have the old ones. And I'll go into that in a little bit of detail as well as we go. So the Greater Falun Project itself, as I mentioned, sitting within the Bergslagen, and the Bergslagen is famous in Sweden for being one of the most mineralised places on Earth. I actually have an animation, which I won't be showing today because it goes for about 5 minutes, but I'll bring that up in the next slide or two, and just jot that down and go and take a look at it at your leisure. Really worthwhile having a look and digging down deep into the geology. It's pretty much like having a look into Eric's brain to work out what's going on, but also explains as to why it is that we're getting so excited. So we have here, you know, we have a 300 square kilometre land package sitting within the Greater Falun Project. We did start with 150 square kilometres when we first got up and going at the beginning of the year. We've doubled that on the back of our discovery of copper gold skarn during our maiden drilling program in Wolf Mountain in February this year. And again, I'll come back to that rock that I showed you with 11.9% copper. So that's you know, a really exciting land package for us. Everything sits within about 15-kilometre radius. When I say everything, you know, we've got around about 12 copper gold polymetallic skarns that we have discovered, all with their own individual causative intrusions sitting within our package, which have the majority of which have never been seen before. And on top of that, we have now over 70 kilometres worth of limestone mineralised zone running through this entire package, where we believe the copper, gold and polymetallic skarns have been hosted. So our view is that with that 15-kilometre radius, you know, we're really looking to develop a large inventory across several deposits feeding into a central processing hub. You know, it's a very would have been a very hot part of the world going back 2 billion years ago, but this is where you find the bigger deposits. So moving forward, now we've already started drilling, as I mentioned. We started drilling in actually going back into November last year. We had a really fantastic hit at Lusty Bull with some amazing grades. Look, 9.5% copper, 16 grams per tonne gold, 285 grams of silver, 3.9 of lead, 8.2 of zinc, all sitting within about 75 metres from surface. That then led us to, that was part of the due diligence process, sorry. And also part of that due diligence process, we did a lot of investigative work out in the ground. We discovered the Wolf Mountain project. We ran the IP survey going back into November of last year, which then we drilled a number of those anomalies, and that's where we discovered our copper gold skarn and set us on the process that we have since then. An awful lot of work's been going on since February of this year. I think we visited over 2,000 outcrops and historical workings within the area. And this is where we've discovered all of these skarns, so the 12 copper, gold, or polymetallic skarns that we've discovered in that period of time. So the rigs are turning. Again, we've just moved into a 4,000 metre drilling program, of which we're about probably 40% of the way through. I'll come back to that. I've got a couple of slides in there where we talk about the results that we've been getting, or at least the visuals that we've been getting at Green Mile and at Hareden. But yeah, I can talk about the fact that we have hit visible chalcopyrite or chalcopyrite copper. So moving on to the next slide. So this is the slide I was talking about with regards to cracking the code at the Greater Falun Project. So since we made the discovery of copper gold skarn at Wolf Mountain, we've done a huge amount of work in the field, and all of those rocks there, they represent rocks that we've actually found of either proximal, distal, or copper gold skarn or polymetallic skarn, as well as the causative intrusions that we believe are the heat engines that are creating these things. But on top of that, we've got the 70 kilometres of limestone mineralised zone. So from an exploration perspective, this does make things an awful lot easier for us. So given that we can follow the limestone, anytime we pick up a rock at surface or we drill a hole into it and we can sort of understand what the mineralisation is, it's either going to be, so if it's distal, it'll be pyroxene dominated, but at the more proximal we become to the copper gold skarn, or the juicier part of the skarn itself, we're becoming more garnet dominated, and the grades of copper that we're seeing are increasing as well. So again, a lot of detail within that slide. Perhaps go in there, have a look at it in your own time. But as mentioned, so there's a video up there. So there's that link. If you want to get access to that, get in contact with me or jot that down there now and go in and take a look at it, because it really does delve deep into the brain of a geologist and gives you a very good idea as to where we're headed. It can be a bit messy at times, but that's we have to deal with that. Now, as far as the drilling campaigns that we have on the go, so also the ones that we've completed, as I mentioned, the Lusty Bull drilling that we did, look, some phenomenal grades that we hit in there. We probably didn't quite understand what we were dealing with at the time, but after the success of the drilling at Wolf Mountain, we went back and had a look. So we now understand that the Lusty Bull drilling actually sits within the limestone hosted mineralised zone that I'd mentioned, as well as, we are seeing a lot of the polymetallic skarn mineralisation in there as well. So a bit of a proof of concept there. Wolf Mountain, I've spoken about a few times, and I even have a couple of slides in there coming up. So Green Mile, so 1 to 5% sulfides that we've hit in our most recent drilling program. I'm hoping that we'll get some assays back before Christmas on that. The Hareden target, so we're just finishing up the drilling program in there now. We're just drilling one final hole so we can get an idea of what's going on there with the structures. But again, we've hit some 5 to 10% sulfides with visible chalcopyrite copper within that area. And, as with Green Mile, just a really exciting area, and both sitting within the limestone hosted mineralised zone and especially with Green Mile sitting on exactly the same limb of the limestone as the Falun deposit itself, and only about 7 kilometres away. So, I come back to this neurology that I mentioned at the start. Where we're going to find a big deposit, this is where we're going to find a big deposit. So just moving forward on the rest of the drilling, we'll be moving over to Wolf Mountain soon in the next week or two to work on the number of the expanded IP survey, which I'll go into. And then there's going to be obviously all the other 12 targets and the other ones that we're developing at the moment. I'm hoping that we're working on developing a new program, or a really large drilling program, for next year. So just a little bit, it's just some visuals on Lusty Ball. I won't go into that in too much detail because I've already spoken about it. But yeah, 75 metres from surface, some phenomenal grades. Those sorts of grades will make money in any weather. Wolf Mountain target, that's, as said, this is what set us on our target. We have a lot of work to do here. This looks like a really big copper gold skarn system. We haven't found the causative intrusion there yet. On this next slide here, we've done a much larger IP survey. We expanded that from the 300 square metres that we did in November of last year to over the field season this year. We did a 3 kilometre square IP survey, and we have 4 high IP targets that we're going to be drilling in the next couple of weeks, just to try to determine what's going on here at Wolf Mountain as to whether or not we have the causative intrusion, which we have actually seen an intrusion to the south here that may be associated with this target, and we've seen another really large target over here to the west. So we're going to be an awful lot smarter about Wolf Mountain, hopefully leading into Christmas, and hopefully I'll get some news out to you guys as soon as possible on that. As far as the Green Mile is concerned, as I said before, this sits only 7 kilometres along strike on the same limestone limb as the Falun deposit itself. We're seeing a very strong alteration zone where we've hit visible chalcopyrite, in 1 to 5% sulfides. We're currently doing downhole EM on those particular targets to help us zero in on where we believe the stronger part of the mineralisation is. But we haven't even looked at anything going to the east yet, heading closer towards Falun. The boys have been out there in the last couple of months having a look in the field, and we're starting to get really excited about what we're seeing. So this whole area here from Falun over to the western point of Green Mile, that's nearly 10 kilometres of mineralisation that we're seeing at surface, and we're now proving that up. And we're even seeing really large alteration zones, which is exactly where the copper, gold and polymetallic skarns sit. So all looking good there at Green Mile. Hareden, as I said, we hit 5 to 10% sulfides in there at Hareden, seeing some beautiful rocks at surface and within our drilling. So that's our core that you can see there. So some, quite a lot of sulfides, between 5 and 10% sitting in there. Only 71 metres downhole, which is around about 35, 40 metres from surface at a 45, 50 degree hole. We're seeing a lot of mineralisation again at surface, and hopefully, I think we'll get the assays back for that just after Christmas sometime. But we're also working further along to the west now as we get closer and closer to where we're seeing some residual gravity anomalies and magnetic anomalies all the way along this limestone-hosted mineralised zone as well. So just as I'll finish off on talking about Guyana. Obviously, we put out an announcement yesterday. Look, 500,000 ounces. Sorry, lights just went out for some reason. 500,000 ounces at our Arakaka Project. Look, this is just a really fantastic result for the team. It's been a long time coming. We had some pretty phenomenal drilling results up at Arakaka with our Nord Gold JV that we had that finished in June. But to be able to produce 500,000 ounces at 1.8 grams and at a pretty high cutoff of 0.8 grams and have it open in all directions with with quite a lot of upside on the exploration as well. This adds some serious value to our portfolio, and of which I don't believe we're seeing any value within our market cap as of yet. But it's my job to get out there and educate everybody as to what value this actually has. Look, it won't be a secret to anybody. Look, we have been talking to a number of companies with regards to what it is that we're going to do with this asset. We still haven't decided which way we are going to go. But, if nothing else, we've proven that it's got significant value. So ongoing news flow, it's just drilling. Still field work ongoing out there in Sweden. A lot of, we've still got more outcrops and historical workings that we want to visit. This is an area that's been known about for 1,000 years, but has been completely misunderstood. And I think the best way to describe it is, when you're looking for, the Falun Project itself was traditionally viewed as being a volcanogenic massive sulfide style project. We now strongly believe that the entire area, including the Falun deposit itself, is copper gold skarn and/or polymetallic skarn. I implore you to go back and have a look at that animation, because that really does explain how, when you're looking for VMS, you're looking in one direction, but basically when you're looking for skarns, you're looking in the opposite direction. So it really does explain in layman terms as to why we believe that everything is still sitting there and hasn't been discovered as of yet. So just to reiterate, look, at the right team with strong backing. As I mentioned, I've got some fantastic guys in the team that are helping me out along the way, not only from a technical perspective, but from a market perspective. I've got a couple of the number one guys in there with Ray Shorex and Steve Parsons. I've got, probably the best geologist in the world dealing with copper gold polymetallic skarns. He's got, in Eric, he's got 6 major discoveries in his own right. He's now come on board with us for the last couple of years looking for another one, and I've got full faith in his ability to do that. We're in a tier 1 location. The Bergslagen is, it's famous amongst geos for being one of the most mineralised places on Earth. Again, have a look at the animation, you'll see why. 1,000 years of geology turned on its head. As I said, we believe we've cracked the code now. We know we're looking for copper gold polymetallic skarns, not for VMS. We found the 70 kilometres of limestone mineralised zone. Just from an exploration perspective, it doesn't get any better than that. And we've got a plethora of high priority targets, and we're probably drilling targets quicker than what I can actually drill them, which, is a good problem to have. And drilling is underway. We hope to have the 4,000 metre drilling program completed by the end of December, perhaps going slightly into January. We don't slow down in Sweden for the winter. In actual fact, it actually gets a little bit easier in winter, because when the ground freezes in late December into January, it makes it a little bit easier to drill on some of the wetter ground. So, absolutely no issues from that point of view. So, and obviously there's the disclaimer, and you guys can read that in your own time. But look, thanks very much for your for listening, and I guess I hand back to you, Karen, if there's any questions.
There's a ton of questions, Peter, and we're almost out of time, so I'm going to whack into them. Trading halt today. What are the reasons for the company raising money right now?
Look, I guess it was more opportunistic. We've got around about the $3 million sitting in the bank at the moment. And that, if we did nothing else, that would, except for this drilling program at the moment, we'd still have over probably $2 million in the bank come January. But, we saw an opportunity there. We've been doing a lot of work in the background, Ray, myself and Steve and Eric, on developing our targets. We are super excited about what we have seen in the first 40% of the drilling that we've done, to give us the confidence to put in a much larger drilling program. So we're working on that. I can't go into any details on that now, but that's the reason for why we're taking the opportunity now to raise some money.
Okay, I've got a ton of questions. I'm going to pick one. It's from Andre. What is your preference with Arakaka? Is it sell as is, grow the resource, or a JV?
Look, it'd be unfair of me to go out and say exactly what our plans are. You know, we're sort of, you know, we're doing the best we can to make sure that we get the most amount of value out of this particular project for our shareholders. You know, and we're considering all options at this particular point in time. But I hope that, you know, by, you know, I did say end of November, I think to some people before, but I think we're closer to end of December. I think that we're going to be an awful lot closer to understanding the value of what we have, and obviously putting out that resource yesterday was a step in the right direction, and that puts some, you know, some serious value behind what this thing is actually worth.
Only just getting started, Peter George. I'm looking forward to the news flow coming forward and really appreciate you joining us today. Thanks so much.
Good on you, Kerry. Thanks for your time.